So the way I've been doing these things is just, just I ask you a couple questions, kind of what you're doing, how you got there. Maybe if you're good at telling your story, that'll probably be the easiest.
Dude, hell yeah. Perfect. Let's get into it then.
I guess, how'd you get started in credit, or exactly what you're doing?
Dude, yeah, so I mean after college, like right after I remember me and you talked about like the SWAT stuff. So I was working for SWAT for like the college events. Did that for a year. I ended up getting I ended up getting fired from that job because I was having too much fun. So after getting let go from there, I ended up working for like an accounting software job. I really hated it. So what I ended up doing was I just started like researching stuff online on, just other ways of making money. One of my buddies who I met from SWAT, which is now Paulin, he started working with credit. I always looked up to him, and then he came out with his own course. I'd been studying it for, at least like 2 years now, and really credit has been the main thing that's been able to get me to where I'm at now. I was able to start like an Amazon store, scaled that up to like a six-figure business. Did that for a year, and then now I just started with the Airbnb stuff. So I'm doing the Airbnb arbitrage. Completely been funding these last two businesses with none of my own money. Basically, the whole concept is, you got a business idea, an asset, or an investment. You borrow money at 0% business credit from the banks, put it into something that's going to ROI. By the time you got to pay off the credit cards, it's already paid off. The bank gets their money, and the asset you bought is basically just bought from the bank, and you're just kind of taking the risk to make it happen. So that's kind of how I started, dude. The only reason why I got started, I had like my back against the wall, hated my job, and didn't want to keep doing that. So that's what's been able to get me to quit it, and now just been doing Airbnb and helping other students with learning the whole credit stacking process as well.
It sounds like there's like three different things going on here. Let's dive into the first one you mentioned. So your Amazon store, how'd you get started? What are you selling on your Amazon store? Is it still up today? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Definitely. So I actually started that business with Xavier. So me and him were doing Amazon together. The nice thing about that was like me and Ian Wyman that we got into drop shipping back in college. Back then we were just drop shipping like our niche was just like animal onesies for adults. So we already kind of had some background on just like e-commerce. Um, there's a lot that goes into it. You got like customer service, fulfillment, pricing, sourcing. So we already kind of knew some of that, and we were able to start hiring, just outsourcing people from like the Philippines or whatever to help us out with a lot of like the day-to-day operational stuff. We stuck with that for a year. We scaled it to like six figures in revenue. But honestly, with that business, like the whole drop shipping model, you're only making like anywhere between like 5 and 20% on whatever you're selling. And the whole idea is you're selling a lot of quantity at very low margins. And also with Amazon, you're technically not allowed to be drop shipping. So we've gotten in trouble before and had to hire like a, I guess, kind of like a dispute team to help us get out of it. But long story short, we stopped that after the year, and I ended up parting ways to go into Airbnb. I started that in January of this year, and really just been going super hard in that, just because that's a lot more fun working with like properties than just selling a bunch of like knickknacks and stuff like that on like Amazon. So it's been good, man.
Yeah, I don't love drop shipping on my end. That's one of those hustles I never really got super into just because it's one of those things that like it builds, but then it's not like a reoccurring revenue like Airbnb or stuff like that. You have to keep putting in more and more time and effort into it to make sure it keeps growing. So you did a lot farther than me than I got on drop shipping. I kind of just quit. I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it costs a lot of money up front too, which is like the crappy thing. You're not gonna see anything for the first couple months, but with like Airbnb, dude, like the first however long it took me like 2 weeks from the point of locking my first deal. It took me 2 weeks to get it set up and immediately just started getting bookings. So the money was a lot better with Airbnb. Like the arbitrage model is such a great way to get started too.
Let's have you say it. What is Airbnb arbitrage?
Yeah, so basically, Airbnb arbitrage is the process of, taking your normal lease. Like, you approach a landlord who will let you lease out the unit for, normal time, like a year or longer. Basically, I approach these landlords and let them know, hey, I'm a corporate housing company. I'm looking to, get this lease and sublease it to other tenants for shorter term. And the best part about this is you're not having to put the whole down payment, putting in a lot more upfront cost to actually own it. You're just leasing it. So it's a lot less money upfront. And basically, your tenants are paying off the monthly rent. And then you get to keep any else of the profit for yourself. And that's going to, first off, start off paying off all like the operational expenses, the furniture. But after that, after the first couple months, you get your ROI back, and everything else is just profit after that. So it's been really good so far. I had 5 units here in Bakersfield. I lost 2 of them, so I only have 3 right now, and I have 1 in Chicago, and planning on continuing building the portfolio. So it's been a good process so far.
Are those 5 all from the same person?
2 is from the same person. I still got those. 2 of them actually was from another partner. Full transparency though with that one, I'm actually going through a whole legal battle with her. So before I even got on that one, I was talking to my lawyers and my attorney about this, just because back in April, I picked up 2 leases from her. I was very transparent with her, let her know like, hey, we're going to be, this is Airbnb arbitrage. We're going to put it on Airbnb. We're going to be renting it out to people short term. Long story short, the other tenants in that fourplex didn't feel comfortable with it, but I didn't give a shit. Like, we already signed an agreement. I don't care if you feel uncomfortable. Like, I need to make my money because she's still expecting rent. And so she basically backs out of the contract and still expects me to pay her rent. And then on top of that, she changed all the locks, which is completely illegal in California. That's an illegal lockout. So now me and her are just going back and forth, getting the law involved. And that was like the big thing that kind of almost made me quit the Airbnb stuff. I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'll just stick with the 2 that I have. Like, I've already lost a lot of money on that one, but I'm going to be hearing back from my attorneys. So far from what I've heard, I got like a pretty, I'm going to come out on top. It's just going to cost a lot of money up front, but I'll make it all back. So after losing those 2 units and going through all the stress of a legal battle, I still ended up, I was just like, well, I got all the furniture from those apartments. I'm going to still keep hunting. So picked up another unit. And what that taught me too is like Airbnb arbitrage is a great way to get started. I love it. Gets the cash flow moving in. Like I said, there's a lot less money up front. But where I'm pivoting to now is my plan is to get multifamily units, put 5% down for the down payment. And for that down payment, my plan is to use 0% business credit. So I'm going to, for example, I got approved for a $50K 0% business credit card. My plan is to liquidate that card from $50K credit, turn it into $50K cash, use part of that as the down payment, use the rest to furnish the place, and then just rent it out. And by the time I owe that $50K back, that property is going to make well more than that, and I can pay back the bank. So instead of doing the arbitrage deal, it's a great way to get started, get your feet wet with real estate and like property management. But what I like about owning the multifamily units is I don't have to answer to anybody. If the neighbors want to complain, I don't give a shit because I own the property. Everything I'm doing is completely legal. So that's kind of where I'm pivoting. I'm going to keep the 4 units that I have, the 3 in Bakersfield, the 1 in Chicago, running as long as I can. But from here on out, I'm, just helping right now, starting with my family, getting credit and using that to invest in these properties. So that's something I've been working on and looking forward to it, dude. The multifamily stuff is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. So 3 in Bakersfield, 1 in Chicago. You want to talk a little bit about the ones that are going well and you're not fighting with? Your first 2 original ones. How'd you talk? How'd you bring that up? How'd you find the property? Walk us through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the thing too is if you're thinking about doing Airbnb arbitrage, the biggest thing I would recommend is it's not hard, but it's not easy. The hardest part is, just sticking through it because you need to have, you don't need a sales background, but it'll help you if you have a sales background. And when I first started on this journey, I dropped $5,000 to get into a mentorship program. Learned out all the operations and stuff, but all the operation stuff doesn't matter until you get your first unit. And it is honestly, it's not easy to get your first unit because most people they don't know what Airbnb is, and if they have heard it, they think it's a bad idea. They just think of parties like, oh no, this is a horrible thing. I don't want to get my property messed up. So a lot of times you're going to be calling people, they don't even want to hear you out, and that's fine. The hardest part is sticking through it and continuing with the no's and pushing through that. But basically, my word for word script is, let's say, Gian, you're the landlord. I'm trying to, get a property from you. You got an apartment complex. I'll reach out like, hey, what's up? My name is Miggle from humbleabode.us. I'm part of a corporate housing company. We're looking to pick up one or multiple units for at least a year or longer. We wanted to see if you signed leases with business entities. That's the main script that I used for the hundreds of calls that I did. Most of them, aren't going to be okay with that, but you ask them this, and the reason why that script is so good is, you let them know you're part of a corporate housing company, so you sound established. Two, you let them know you're looking to pick up multiple units. That's a great thing a landlord or like a property management team wants to hear because you sound invested. Most property management companies, they're going to get a commission if they, the whole complex is booked out. So that's good for them. And then three, you let them know you're looking for a lease for a year or longer. So that means they're going to have the same tenant and not have to keep looking for people. And the key part of this whole pitch is letting them know you're a corporate housing company, because you just go off the gates telling them, you do Airbnb, a lot of people will just shut you out. But the nice thing with a corporate housing company, and this is actually what I focus on, is corporate housing companies, they house, just work professionals. So here in Bakersfield, there's a lot of travel nurses. I think we're like top 13 in the US for travel nurses. So we house people who are trying to stay here for, 30 days or longer. You let them know the type of clients you're targeting, and they're like, okay. The great things with working us with corporate housing companies is they get guaranteed income every month. We're less likely to default than a normal tenant is. Also too, since we're in charge of finding the tenants, our job is also to make sure the place looks nice. So they know we're going to have their best interest at heart when it comes to keeping it in pristine condition. But really the main thing is just automatic payments. That's the biggest thing they care about is just the money. And the whole time too, I'm completely honest with it. Like I let them know like, hey, we, half the time we do corporate housing, it'll be 30 plus days of tenants who are here on like professional jobs. And then the other half, it's going to be shorter term rentals, which is completely true. You don't want to lie to them. If you're, if you don't plan on doing any corporate housing, then, at least consider it, because there's a lot more money to be made in that section too. And I know with Airbnb, there's a lot of restrictions coming on now that you can't do short-term rentals, but the best way around that with those counties that don't allow it is becoming a corporate housing company, not a short-term rental company, a corporate housing, because corporate housing is for 30 days or longer. So that's a quick little loophole for you guys. That's huge. Exactly. So that's been super helpful. It was called vacation. Oh, it was a vacation rental machine. It was honestly really cool. It taught me all about the operations. One thing I would critique them on is like they didn't have too much of a good sales process, but luckily for me, I've been doing that, all my life. So it wasn't too hard for me to get the sale. But like I said, that's probably the hardest part is convincing them it is a good idea. Cause like, in all honesty, it's a great service, dude. They get automatic payments. The place is going to look good. You're going to stick with them for a year longer. Like, It's a win-win, honestly. Just you got to get them to open up, and by telling them your corporate housing, getting them open up to midterm rentals, then you have a room to negotiate. Like, okay, are you cool with even shorter term rentals, like a week or like a couple days? And that's when if they're open to corporate housing 30 plus days or longer, then you get a lot of leverage to try to negotiate with them.
Gotcha. So those are the three in Bakerfield. It sounds like they're not. They're more of like mom and pop shops, like small landlords. Is the one in Chicago a small landlord? Or is it a big corporation?
Yeah, so that one, yeah, so definitely the ones here in Bakersfield are all, small mom and pop. The one in Chicago, I actually have a partner out there where I helped fund the deal, and she's the one, because she's been doing this ever since like damn near like 2010. So she's been doing this for over 10 years now. Um, but she's working within like an actual apartment complex. So that one's kind of a lot more established. Those guys aren't as, you'd think they're harder, but if you play your cards right, you negotiate it, then you'll be fine. What I always tell people too is like you're gonna get 100 no's before you get one yes. So like you might go like a month or even months before you find like the perfect fit, but the hardest part is finding that first one. And once you could find that, you know, that odds are that landlord is going to have multiple units or have other friends in the real estate game that might be interested in. So as long as you stick it out, then it dramatically increase your probability to be able to scale later in the future.
Yeah, 100%. And I sometimes feel like the like larger complexes are actually easier to work with because they go, oh yes, we do corporate housing. It's not like a, oh, are they deciding it on the fly? It's they've probably already had made a decision whether or not they will do it.
Exactly. And those larger complexes, like I said, you're not going to talk to the actual owner of the property. They have a property management team, and like anytime you're talking to a landlord, 99% of the time they just want something passive, and that goes back to the idea of like they just want automatic payments. And as long as the landlord's getting paid, they don't care. The property management team, they get additional commissions if the place gets fully booked out. So a lot of times if they got vacancies, they'll be quick to say yes to you guys. It's all about just smiling and dialing, keeping it going. But I know for you, right? So are you doing arbitrage yourself, or are you doing just all owner occupied, or not even owner occupied, just like owned rentals yourself?
Right now I'm closing on my fourth Airbnb. So the first one, I bought it for 50 grand. I renovated it for another 50 grand. I did a cash out refinance at 170 grand. So I got more money than I put into it back out of it. And then I Airbnb it out and it goes for about like 3 grand a month. That was like my very first one. And then I was like, I guess Airbnb is not that bad. All of this was remote. So I don't do any of it. Got another one like down the street so I could use the same maid. Bought it for 180K, and this one also Airbnb's out at 3K a month. Especially because you do that. Both of them are around 3K a month, and my payments on it are like 600, 700 bucks a month. They're like not very large. So so that, oh hell no no. That's in a place called Covington, Kentucky. So those were my first two, and then I was like, I don't want to keep getting a bunch of little properties. I want to get like something sweet that looks nice that I would want to go to. So I bought another property down in Naples, Florida. This one was like 1.475 million. Bought that one, and we are Airbnbing that one out, and that one pulls in anywhere between on the off months 12 grand, on the great months are like 30 grand. So I think we're gonna average around 24,000 a month, just the way it's looking. And our monthly payment's like 9K on that one. So we're still pulling in an extra 15 grand on the good months, only 3 grand on the bad months. So like Airbnb's been a good vibe for me. And then we're just closing on another one that's buying it for 675, so putting 70K down. Negotiated some credits in there, so I'm able to actually get um, credits in order to get the whole place furnished. So I'm getting about 40 grand to furnish the place. Gonna send someone out there, furnish the whole place up, put it listed on Airbnb, have it managed, and collect. I think that one will probably do around 10 to 12 grand a month is what we're expecting. And monthly payments is going to be like 3,500 this time. So the goal is to just keep those ratios really far away, do those big cash flows.
Yeah. Damn. So how did you get? Because I mean, for me, the only way I got into that arbitrage deal is I just had a partner and do it. Like how? What two things? Like one, how are you getting the funding for that? And two, like how are you? You know, you live in San Diego, so how are you able to get all that stuff set up for yourself?
Um, Sending someone out there to go do it. Sometimes that's like really expensive. You're like, wow, I'm overpaying, but I know I don't want to do it. I pay like 3 to 5 grand for someone to fly out there, set up the entire place for me, order everything, and essentially take care of everything. The way I get funding is so I actually leverage credit, and I bought a part of a mortgage company. So now I'm the guy that gives out the loans to people, and I have that one. The company pays me, but also being able to control the loans. I partner up with people. I love partnering with different people because you can kind of go, hey, you have a bunch of money sitting around not doing anything for you. I will help you deploy that money out for you. You can make significant amounts of money on it, especially in Airbnb. I think the next one we're doing, they're looking to make like 50% ROI. So like in 2 years, they get all their money back. Um, just essentially helping people deploy their cash out there, getting them pre-qualified is it's going through my brokerage. So I'm helping my brokerage make more money. I'm talking to so many different realtors that they're bringing me the deals now. So it's essentially building that network. So a lot of it's coming inbound, and then just recently, I've been trying to offload a lot more of my time so I can have more time to myself. So we got three like people on the acquisition side of things. They are reaching out to people and analyzing deals. I taught them how to analyze like what's a good Airbnb, how to tell like what are good markets. I bought a program called AirDNA. It's about $1,000 a month, but it tells you every single person's around there how much they're renting out and how much every single one can rent out. So it's a universal license. So that tells me how much it's going to rent out for, what we can do with it, if it's a good deal, and I just have them bring me the deals now, and I work with investors to make these deals happen. If it makes sense.
Yeah, nice. So you already kind of like built out the systems, you got everybody trained, and now at this point you're almost acting almost as like the sales or like the middleman. Like, okay, we got this opportunity. Do you want to invest in it? And then you just kind of connect the two type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have people with, there's a ton of people with money and no knowledge of how to invest. So it's like if we can find strong, solid deals, and I say, hey, I'm gonna do all of the work, take care of everything, and just give you monthly payments for it. It's essentially like leveraging credit, but you're actually helping people make money. On my end, I'd rather help someone make money versus give it to the bank. Right?
That's cool, man. Sounds like we're doing something like basically the same thing. That's awesome, man. Doing the credit, but you're on like the mortgage side, so that's perfect, man.
So the last question, or not the last question, but the last thing you said, Amazon stores, Airbnb, and now you're like getting into credit. Do you like run a credit repair program or course or something like that? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I actually the guy Jack he's the guy who got me onto credit. Like I actually work for his company helping sell his mentorship program. Yeah, we're helping people get approved for, on the very minimal low end. We're helping get people approved in at least $250,000 in 0% business credit easily. We got people in that program 300 to 500K, but 250 on the very minimum end. So I work for him just because I've seen how much it's changed my life, and now on the side, I'm also helping people with their personal credit, getting that all repaired, and then so on the side for me too, like if I'm not selling the course, I'm doing just one-on-one consultations myself. Um, for like a business credit course, I don't want to like compete with him just because I'm very loyal to what he's done for me. But I make my money doing like credit repair and just one-on-one consultations. But it's been amazing, man. Literally, like I said, like I wouldn't had if I didn't have the funding at hand, I don't even think I'd consider doing something like Airbnb because like what I'm gonna sit around, wait to save like $10,000, $20,000, and by the time I actually want to take action, like, the motivation's gone out the window. So it's been super life changing with actually getting started on the different projects that I want to do. So it's been cool, man. Um, yeah, we've been helping out a lot of. We have like almost like 750 students, all stacking credit. Leveraging 0% to start their businesses or scale what they already have. So it's been awesome, man.
Let's say I get a new card. Like I have one card I kind of use. It's a business card. It's the Chase. I think it's Ink Unlimited Business or something like that. I got like a 50K credit card, 0% interest on it, and it was just under an LLC, so it's not showing up on my credit. Um, so it's not going to drag you down for holding that. I think it's like 12 or 15 months of like 0% interest. What do you talked a little bit about liquidating it. Do you liquidate it using like Visa gift cards and then turn those to a Western Union to like liquidate that in cash, or are you trying to use that in actual spend, or what's the process that you recommend for people?
Yeah, so for actual liquidation, there's these things called like merchant processing. You have things like Plastique, or people will try to do they try to Venmo or PayPal themselves the money from a credit card. There's probably like a 3% fee on that. But the problem with that is if you're liquidating, if you're only liquidating like anything less than 10,000, it'll work. But when you're talking something 50,000, $100,000, you need something a little more refined, just because technically you're not allowed to be liquidating the cards. Like the banks want you to cash advance it, which is like 15, 25%, which is bullshit. So we teach you guys a method on how to merchant process it to where you get the money deposited back in your account. It's like I think a 5% credit fee or something like that, which is totally worth it considering you get the cash from it. And if you're gonna invest it, you should be making at least well above 5% anyways. So you're gonna be making some return on that. So there's just a different merchant processing method that allows you to liquidate at scale. So the problem though is when people are trying to apply for business credit, people think like, oh, I have a really high FICO score. That means I'm going to get approved for high credit limits. And that's really not the case. I always tell people the two things that banks focus on and where we kind of help in that course is like they'll focus one on your personal FICO score. You want to have at least a 700, 720 preferably, but what people don't understand is your FICO when it comes to business credit, all it does is get your foot in the door with the banks, and that's it. Other than that, that's all it does. Like I've worked with people who've had like an 845 credit score and still only getting approved for 5K credit limits. So the second more important part is banks. They kind of have like the secret list of non-FICO related factors. It's about like 15 non-FICO related factors, and my personal theory of why they don't make it public is, banks don't make money on 0% business credit. So they don't tell you exactly what they're looking for. And that's, we've broken it down to a science and we figured out what they're looking for. So, they want to see, like, I'll just give you an example. Like when I started this Airbnb business, my LLC was barely a month and a half old. My personal income was really low at the time. Business revenue was really non-existent because it was brand new, didn't have any vendor trade lines or anything like that. And although those four factors matter, because I optimized the 11 factors, that the other stuff they looked at, I still ended up getting approved for like a 25K card and a 50K card. So 75K just from two banks, and was able to implement that for my business.
So opening up those trade lines, getting that EIN number, getting a Duns and Bradstreet number. Sounds like those are the ones I know off the top of my head. What else is there to make sure like you open up an LLC? Because realistically, you only get this thing for 12 months, and then you probably have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's where the credit stacking method comes in. Because, yeah, like I said, just to recap, they will look at personal income, business revenue, especially estimated business revenue. That's the best part is when they look at estimated business revenue because you know you could you could estimate it really highly. It doesn't have to be exact. A lot of banks will. Yeah, I'm like, well, I my goal is to make $1 million this year. Like, who's to say that I can't, you know? So like, I always recommend people being optimistic with their numbers, but don't be too optimistic, because that's the other thing is, if you're too optimistic with it, they might ask for, proof of documentation. And that's where the real the hard part is, like, knowing what to put on the application. So, um, just to kind of recap, personal income, estimated business revenue, age of LLC, vendor trade lines. But the other stuff they'll look at is, how the LLC is structured. So there's a thing called an NAICS code, and that code, when you're setting up your LLC, that determines your level of risk depending on the industry and line of work you work in. And some industries are obviously a lot higher risk than others. And for example, when I was setting up my Airbnb business, my Airbnb arbitrage business, originally I put in the name like, Humble Abode Homes, description real estate, and then I called up my LLC to change the NAICS code in the name, because I didn't want banks associating me with real estate, like, because real estate's actually technically considered a higher risk. It's not super risky, but it's a higher risk. So I called them up and changed my description. I was like, just call me humbleabode.us LLC, and the business description is advertising and marketing for real estate, because technically that is what I'm doing. I don't own any of these properties. I'm just putting it on marketing platforms and getting tenants. So I was able to get considered a lower risk business because I'm considered advertising and marketing. So that's one of the things they'll look at. Banks, they'll want to see you have at least like 4 to 5 personal credit cards. You want to have like anywhere between 30 and 50K personal credit between those cards, because, if you go to Chase Bank, ask them for 75K and 0% business credit, they're not going to, and you only have one credit card with a 10K credit limit on it, they're not going to trust you. So you want to make sure you look the most fundable as possible. And basically we walk you through all that. And the two key game changers with the whole process is, one, being aware of, here are the exact data points line by line that work for these applications, to where they won't, odds are they probably won't ask you for any proof of documentation or anything. You just got to be careful with overstating things. The second thing is having relationship managers with the banks. These guys are absolutely huge with the process. So relationship managers, for anybody who doesn't know, these guys, they work at the corporate offices of banks, not your local bank branch office. And they have a lot of influence on the underwriting application process. So imagine like 99% of the people you see, they're applying online through the same link everyone else is going, versus you're going through an actual plug, like the inside guy who actually is part of the decision-making process. And they essentially apply on your business's behalf, push your application through, influence the underwriting process. And because we know what to put on the application and what to tell them, they're going to get it approved and get you approved for even higher credit limits than if you were to try to do it on your own. And that's those two things alone are like the difference between getting approved for a 5K credit limit and a 50K credit limit. So those guys have been absolutely huge in the whole process. Like, a lot of this wouldn't be possible without them, without having those relationships. And just to even be talking to the relationship managers, your business, they're really hard to come across by. Like, your business already has to be doing business banking with them for at least a year or longer, and then bringing in 7 figures worth of revenue. But for most people, you can't do that. But if you already have somebody who has that plug and can introduce you to it, then you skip that whole year-long process, and then on top of however long it take you to make 7 figures. So that thing's a game changer for sure.
What credit cards do you recommend? I have the unlimited one for my business right now, and I think I have a couple Amex ones. But what would you say? What are the top 0% intro financings that you've used?
Dude, I'll show you. So this is like my credit card booklet, literally, from trading like Pokemon cards to fucking just collecting credit cards now. I just have like a whole booklet of this. But like, the main ones I recommend, dude, like, just prioritize 0%. Especially if you're doing anything business related, just prioritize all the banks with 0% because you have all the national banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, they all have 0%. You got banks that are specific to your state, city, county level, all 0%, and then credit unions. So you got a lot of options. The best strategy I recommend is starting off on the top national banks and then working your way down to the more local ones, credit unions. But the best ones I recommend, like, Amex, they have two 0% business credit cards. That's huge. Chase, they are this is probably the number one place to prioritize is Chase Bank. They are notorious for super high credit limits. They have two 0% business credit cards. Like, with our program in credit stacking, we're like the minimum you should be getting from Chase is a total of 100K between two cards. So that one's really good. US Bank is great. They got like an 18-month, or I think it's like 20-month or something like that, 0% business credit card. Bank of America is really good. All those top banks. And then from there, just with those top banks alone, that's easily 150K at least in funding right there. And then you just kind of keep moving down the line.
How many credit cards would you say you go into, and then at that point you just open up another LLC and redo it with that LLC?
Exactly, exactly. So that's the nice thing too, is like if you have multiple LLCs, you rinse and repeat the process again. Like I know I saw this one guy, he had four LLCs, applied for the same credit card four times and got approved all within the same day, which is like absolutely ridiculous. I know not all banks work like that. I know sometimes like you need to pay off that card before you can apply again with another bank. But for me, like there's so many 0% business credit cards out there with so many banks. Like I've yet to get even through half of them with one LLC. But my game plan is run the game plan all through all the cards possible with one LLC. Once I use all that funding there, make the money back that I borrowed, pay it off, and then redo the same process on the next LLC. So like right now, I probably have like 10 business credit cards right now, at least like, 150, 200K in business credit funding. Right now, I'm not even utilizing all of it, just because I'm still learning the Airbnb process. But that's it. It's just I always recommend, have the money on hand so when like an opportunity arises, you can invest, especially in real estate. Like if a deal comes up, and you don't have the funding for it, somebody else is going to pick it up before you. So it's better to, be prepared than not be prepared at all.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know earlier you talked about like a merchant process to liquidate. So let's say you need it. I'm trying to think of a scenario. You were gonna use it for a down payment. Let's say you want to liquidate 30 to 50K, let's say, for a down payment on. Honestly, you could probably buy a cheap Airbnb, 10% down as the down payment, and then that down payment could be, you could be putting 30 to 50K down from a different credit card. What would probably be your process of liquidating it into a bank account so then that money can season and then being able to use that as a down payment?
Yeah. So basically, you can probably find people like this. It's just really having the right trust. But basically, go through a merchant processor. Let's say you want to liquidate 30K. They'll create like an invoice for the 30K, and then that way it goes through the merchant and process as like an actual like an expense. And then that 30K, they'll probably take like 5%, 6% or whatever for the processing fee. But then they'll deposit that 30K back into the bank account, like checking account that you send them, let them know to deposit in. So it's pretty simple from that. The only thing is, you got to have the right people, somebody you trust, somebody who's a seasoned veteran who does this professionally and legitimately, just because like I said, technically with cards, they don't want to see it. They want you to cash advance that. But if you know the finesse ways around it, that's great. You just got to make sure, you're working with somebody who knows how to make it legit. Otherwise, odds are they'll probably close out the account and then you still got to pay back the money. So you just got to be really careful with that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, what stops them from opening up their own Shopify website and having just I don't know, a Word document that's 30 grand. You buy the 30 grand Word document, but it's also attached to your own Stripe account, so the money kind of goes right back to you.
Exactly. It's I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if I should say it. Actually, never mind. I won't even say that. But yeah, it's basically you're funneling the money into making it. You're just circling it back.
Because I've heard this as people buy like $1,000 at a time at Simon Mall gift cards, those like Visa gift cards, and you go take them to a Western Union and then turn those into cash. And I've heard that process. I'm just curious if there's like any sort of taking that money for E-Trade. I remember that used to be a thing for like Coinbase when they started. Use their credit cards and kind of like liquidate it back out. But are any of these the methods that you would recommend?
I know banks have caught on to that, especially the gift card ones. That's why personally I just go through the merchant processing. Like the gift card ones are nice because there's not going to be any fee on it, but it does take time because you got to go to the store, buy the gift card, then go to a Western Union, liquidate the gift card or whatever. So that takes a lot of time for me. I'm more than happy to pay 5-6% on something that's guaranteed, and it's not going to take me as much time. But I have heard that people have done it. I'd just be careful, just because I know banks have caught onto it, and if they just see, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 gift card like on your credit card charges, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah, there's probably a smarter way to do it then. Yeah, cool. Those were the questions I had lined up. Did you have any questions for me?
yeah, dude. I've just been watching your Instagram, dude. Like since college, like me and you used to do the what was it, guess your group together. So we were both always been doing the business stuff. Um, just a couple fuck boys who are getting into investing. So, talk to me about like, because I haven't talked to you since college. So what's your kind of journey been since graduating? Were you working like a normal 9 to 5? Are you working all yourself right now? Like how, like I know where you're at right now, but like kind of walk me through how you got there.
Yeah, so I'll rewind it all the way to my sophomore year of college. I was engineering intern, and I realized I hate engineering interns. I would rather be sales side. So the next year I became a sales engineer. And then I said, dang, I'd really probably like to be the full-fledged sales. So right out of college, I joined a company called CrowdStrike as an SDR. From there, I just made 300 cold calls a day, really built that being dead inside to rejection because you're just calling and calling and calling. And then after my first year there, I got bumped up to an account exec. My buddy, he's Mormon. He just came back from his mission. So he actually was still in college and he was going to BYU. And BYU has a weird rule where if you don't live within 1 square mile of the campus, then you have to be what is it? You have to be married if you don't live within 1 square mile of the campus. Meaning, there's only so many houses that can be used as student housing. So he was struggling because there's a ton more students all the time. So I said, hey, why don't we just like buy a place? You can live in it. You rent out all the rooms. And we bought a 5 bedroom house, like a 5 bedroom little condo for 250K. Monthly payments were like 1,200 bucks a month, I think. And we just had each room rented out for 500 bucks a month, so like 2,500 bucks a month. So we were making, like 600 bucks a month on that. It worked out well. I was like, okay, well, investing out of state is not that scary. I don't really have to look at anything or see anything. The next year, we said, hey, you could do 5% down every 12 months as like a primary residence. He saw the next door was open. And he said, hey, let me just put 5% down. One now. And we just did the exact same thing. We actually bought that one for 240K. And then after we owned those both, COVID hit and people were getting scared. But I was like, dude, these interest rates are dropping. So there was like this little era of COVID where no one was buying and interest rates just got cut because everyone thought a recession was going to happen. So I said, dude, we got to start buying because it's so cheap. So I worked with an investor who was like, hey, I'm trying to different properties, and I started looking out of state. So Utah appreciated too quickly where I couldn't really buy another one in Utah. So I looked out in Ohio. So I saw Columbus, Ohio. I reached out over Zillow and found some realtor who would just walk in there, give me videos. I would just pay money for an inspection whenever I went under contract on something. So there's a lot of people involved. So I never felt like I was getting scammed because the only way that works is the realtor's trying to scam me, the inspector's trying to scam me, the appraiser's trying to scam me, which means if the appraiser's trying to scam me, that means the bank's trying to scam me, and the property manager. Like all five of these guys are their own different people. They're not going to be together. So that's why you could always have other people verify things for you. And I bought two duplexes for 120K each, and then I was seeing that COVID appreciation on those first two Utah houses. I did a cash out refi on them for 350K, so increased the debt, but I got a check for $104,000, and I had only put 35K in. So I got more money out of these properties, and we increased rents year over year. So now they're rented, I think, at 3K each, and we're already so clear in the black where if we happen to default on all the loans, we're still good, but obviously we're not going to try to default on them. Taking that money, I bought a duplex over in Indianapolis, Indiana. I thought that was a good area. That was actually the only one I did out there just because I didn't really have a huge network there. I bought a duplex for 90K, and I said, hey, like the roof looks like it's got some issues. Would you give me $5,000 of repair credits because I need to fix this roof? They said, sure thing. So I had to I put 20% down on this place, and it was a 90K place, which means I'm putting $18,000 down, but they're gonna give me a check for $5,000 to fix the roof. And I mean, the roof had maybe like 3 or 5 more years on it, so it hasn't broken yet. But I only had to put in 13 grand on this place.
Nice. That's Oh no, I was just saying that's dope, man. So you moved quick. Like how many of those units, because you started basically, well, what you said, like right before COVID, throughout COVID. Okay, so you started 2019. So yeah, 3 years later, how many units does that bring you to?
So right now I'm at 68, and then I'm looking to close on another 21 within the next 2 months. It's just 68 units, yeah. So that's broken up over 23 different properties. So two, no, four single family homes. It looked, no, five single family homes. And actually, sorry, I keep counting more and more when there's like nine single family homes, a lot of duplexes, quadplexes, and then one 24 unit apartment complex. And I'm closing on another 20 unit apartment complex, and then that one Airbnb I was talking to you about. So that's where I'm getting my 21. So I'm trying to grow this model out more and more where I just look at the property, be able to find out like what's the game plan? Can we fix it up and flip it? Can we fix it up and rent it out? Can we fix it up and Airbnb it out? Giving like large scale exit plans. I'm trying to get more and more doors under my management, and then we're renting. I think every month we pull in like $87,000 worth of rent. Obviously, we got huge bills of like 30 to 50K, but you still make money every month. And as long as they cash flow, it just never hurts to own more real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And like how you're saying, like leveraging credit, your mortgage, refi, cash out refi. That's dope, man. Really, you'd only been doing real estate what for like really like 3 years. That's about it.
Career stretch because from 2019 to 2020, I only had one, and then in 2020 I got two, and then from 2020 to today we're at 68 just because it was buy it, cash out refi. Buy it undervalued, maybe do a little bit of work on it, get it rented, do a cash out refi, and try to get as much money back as we could. Some of them I would like have a contractor go in there, fix up the whole place. We'd put it on Airbnb or rent it out, do a cash out refi on it, just to keep the same money cycling. And then I wanted to do bigger and bigger deals, so I started having other investors come in saying, "Hey, I've got money. We're closing on like a $2 million apartment complex. We raised 400K to buy it, and we're going to be able to refinance it probably at like 2.6 million just because of where the rents are. Um, and then we'll be able to pay all the investors back, and we have a little bit more debt, like another 400 or 500K more debt, but then we own another apartment complex that cash flows.
Walk me through like how you're getting like clients to get on board with this.
I think the niche was always just a lot of times people reached out to me saying like, "Hey man, I always wanted to get in real estate investing. I saw that you do real estate investing. Like, that's so awesome. I really wish I could do that." And I'm like, "Well, I don't mind helping you out. I find the deal for you. I do all the work to make this deal happen. You put up the money and credit, and we make the deal happen. You make money, I make money, and we split the profits."
And what does that like profit split usually look like? Because obviously you're doing all the work, right? So like, feel like the guy doing a lot of the work, you got the sweat equity, so you got to make your dime.
What I used to do is something called like a fixed 8% of a preferred return, saying that, listen, at least in the worst case scenario, you'll make 8%. As long as we're making more than that, so if we're making 12%, they get the first 8%, and then we split that remaining 4% 50-50. And then once there was just enough people where I'm like, why am I splitting this fixed 8%? It's like, we might as well just do 50-50, especially when I'm looking at some of these properties that are bringing in 40-50% cash on cash. And then some of these are just, like when you factor in the tax savings because you get a lot more when you own the property of like you get depreciation, tax savings, buy down that equity depreciation. So realistically, these properties are usually around 100 to 200% ROI. So I don't even do the fixed percent. So it's just, hey man, after you put in your money, we're going to split profits 50-50. If there's ever any expenses or anything, obviously I won't make any money and you won't make any money, but we're doing all of these deals and we haven't lost money yet, and we don't plan to lose money. And that's kind of because we're in a niche where we're not at like the grandiose levels of buying super expensive houses. We're going, okay, this one's going to bring in this much money, and we need like a big delta in between the two for whatever we purchase it for versus what, how much money it's going to put in.
Damn, man, that's dope. You got like a full certified system, just cranking it out, man. That's awesome.
And then from there, I wanted to try to get more investors eventually, or like kind of like let it be known out there that I do this stuff, because a ton of people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm trying to get into this. Let's do it." Um, so being able to help out all these other people, get more investors, be able to grow quicker. That's kind of where I'm doing with content. So I just created a landing page, and I think I did an interview, so I should be posted in like LA Times and like Forbes fairly soon. And I want that traffic from there to send over to my landing page, which I can get more people to fill out a form saying, "Hey, trying to be an investor, I have this much money, let's do a deal." And I'm trying to build up my deal flow with more people searching for me, trying to find even Airbnb arbitrage or Airbnbs to purchase, or just all these different ways to make money in real estate. Finding all these deals, having a huge supply of deals and having a huge supply of investors, and just pairing the two over and over again is kind of the game plan.
That's dope, man. Congrats on those interviews. I'll definitely check it out. When did those drop? Do you know?
Probably a couple months. The only other cool thing that I did is, if you know who Grant Cardone is, he's Mr. 10X himself. I was just on his TV show. He filmed a TV show in San Diego, so I'm on episode 3. So we'll see which TV network takes it. So ideally Netflix, that'd be cool. But we'll see where I end up at.
Obviously, those are all big names. Fucking LA Times, Forbes, Grant Cardone. Like, how did how do you get recognized to be able to get in contact with them to because like Grant Cardone's the fucking goat, dude. Like for real estate.
I moved to San Diego and I joined a San Diego real estate investing Facebook page, and some random lady posted like a photo of Grant Cardone, and I didn't really read it, and I was like, oh, there he is. And I read it, and it says like, hey, we're casting for real estate pros and investors in San Diego. I had never done a deal in San Diego before, but I was like, I'll put together a deal to meet Grant Cardone. We're area. So he put together a deal, and the whole thing is it's kind of like Shark Tank. You try to pitch him on your deal, and he'll take it or not. So I chose a deal and put it all together, made it through the first round interview with them, the second round interview, and I guess they filmed me and they sent it to Grant to see if he likes it. I got the thumbs up, so I got to meet him in person. Day one, just on La Jolla Beach. Day two was at the property itself, so he filmed with me on the property. Got to walk around, and it was a fix and flip, so he was tearing it all apart, being like, "This is so ugly."
Yeah. Going like full Simon from like American Idol on that. Just like, gosh, that's dope.
And then day three, I made it to the boardroom, like the final round, and it's just like instead of Shark Tanks, where it's like these people are fighting over your deals, it's almost like they had it in a great way for him, where it's five different people with different deals going, why should I do your deals over Miggle's deal or this guy's deal? And you're like, oh, now I gotta argue why mine's better than his and why his is bad and things like that. I'm like, all right.
Damn, that's dope, man. Well, can't wait to see that. That's gonna be exciting, dude. So where do you think so right now you're just focusing on building like, kind of the clout, the brand and start funneling and getting more investors and funding for that is kind of where you're taking everything now.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And then I think building a community is good. Like, there's building a following, but then there's building a community of where people can actually interact and message. And I've created somewhat of a Discord channel for that. And that's what I hope to evolve slowly into having, if we have 100,000 investors in here, I could go, hey, here's a deal. Who wants it? And it could be raise your hand like that. So it's like keeping people actively engaged is really the goals with building the audience and the following and the investors list of me having so many different people that want to do the same thing we're doing and getting it.
Dude, nice. That's congrats, man. Glad to see it. See we're both grinding, but you are taking it to the next level, my dude. Good stuff.
What's one thing you would like to leave off as something that as advice you could give to your younger self? If you could go back to college Miggle for 1 minute and you said you get 1 minute, timer starts, what are you going to tell him? What he should do?
Yeah, I've honestly just learned this now. So, if you don't know what it is, it's called the 75 Hard Challenge by Andy Frisella. I've been doing that. I'm like 8 weeks in it, but basically that challenge is two 45-minute workouts, 1 gallon of water a day, stick to a diet plan, read self-development books, no drinking or alcohol. I did no drugs at all, like not even caffeine. And on top of that, I added, no porn or masturbation. Like that's like a huge killer to motivation. And I think, anybody who's watching this who's known me since like high school or college, everyone, you've seen, we've both seen each other at parties. Yeah. Everyone's always like, Megal, like, I just get blacked out, just shit faced all the time. And I realized at a certain point, like, I was just kind of doing that to keep my image. And it took me a while after college to be like, look, I don't need to keep being that person. And now what I would tell myself is like, look, you could change anytime you want. And what's helped me with this challenge is like, I don't need to stick to what people expected me. Like, why am I still like going out getting fucked up? And I don't have anything against it. Like, just at that point, I was just doing it way too often, and I had to like question myself, like, am I disciplined? Like, why am I even doing this? Like, I have a lot higher goals that maybe this isn't what I want to keep doing. So this challenge has just really helped me get more disciplined and figure out who I am. So what I would tell myself is, don't be afraid to change things up. You might have to not hang out with the same people as much. You got to change your different attitudes, but like at the end of the day, like if for me, like I'm trying to make this fucking money, try to provide for me, my family, go do awesome adventures, and if that's what it takes, if I need to like put the bottle down, not go out as much, then I'll do it. But that's not to say I'm completely gonna go sober forever. I'm still gonna get fucked up, go celebrate. I'm actually going out to Ryan Pineda, the one of like the real estate gurus. Yeah.
I know him. Yeah, dude, I watch him all the time. I actually know Jack because of Ryan's. He was on his podcast.
Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. So I'm actually flying out to Vegas with Ian for his real estate mastermind at the end of this month in Vegas. And it just so happens the day we fly out there is also the end of my 75-day challenge. So I'm going to go get fucked up. Yeah, I'm going to go get fucked up, celebrate.
Is it really the end of this month on September 28th, 29th?
Yeah, it's like the 28th. So I fly in the September 26th, and I'll be completely done with the challenge. I started back in July 12th. But yeah, I'm going to go celebrate, have a good time. But I think the other thing I tell myself is like, look, like partying's fine, but like we need to reserve this for like a special occasion. Because these days now, since I've been sober for like 2 months now, like if I'm not working on a Saturday or Sunday, at least putting in a little bit of work, like I feel like I'm like fuck, what the fuck am I doing? Like I could afford putting an hour or two just to get ahead a little bit, and it's really nice seeing the shift of like from the perspective like oh crap, my priorities, what are we gonna do tonight versus like all right, what can I get done day in day out. So the challenge has been really life changing. I'm actually a little nervous once I'm done with it because I'm like, damn, am I gonna go revert back to my old ways? But I will die if I try to make up for lost time. But now I just have the perspective of like, my work's more important. If the right people, time, and situation and celebrations there for it, then I'll do it. But yeah, it feels like I made like a full 180 from like miggle wiggle party fuck boy to just self development, investing, fuck boy. So it's been good, man.
Those are all my questions for you. I think I asked any last questions for me.
Super stoked on what you're doing. That's super inspiring. I love like I've been recently connecting with a lot of other people from like high school and college, just seeing what other people are doing. And it's really inspiring just seeing like, damn, we all came from like very similar places, and it's just like more of a push. Like, dude, if this motherfucker that I used to drink with could do it, I could do just as much as them. So I'm stoked that you're getting ahead, and it's making me wanna up my game as well. So good shit, man.